Adaora Damian Obi was born on a night when the moon hid behind thick clouds and the village of Umadim lay drenched in rain. Her cries filled the Obi compound, and the elders declared it a sign of good fortune. She was the first fruit of the union between Chief Damian Obi and his elegant wife Nkechi. The whole compound celebrated her arrival with chants and dances, and her grandmother declared, "This one will be the pillar of her family." But time would prove otherwise. As the years passed, Adaora grew into a quiet, observant child with a hunger for knowledge. She read every book she could lay her hands on, even Chief Damian's old law journals, which he kept in his study like sacred texts. She walked with grace, worked tirelessly in the household, and never caused trouble. But when Chikwudi was born, the first son, everything shifted. The celebration for his birth was grander. Cows were slaughtered. Musicians played until dawn. Adaora, only 7 then, watched her father lift her brother with pride she had never seen directed at her. Stung. More brothers followed. Ibuka, fiery and restless. Nonso, the cunning quiet one. With each son, Adaora became more of a shadow in her own home. "Why can't I go to school in the city too?" she once asked her father. Chief Damian looked at her as though she had asked to touch the sky. "A woman's place is here. Let the boys chase books. Your time will come when you marry a rich man." That night, Adaora cried silently, hugging her notebook. Her mother sat beside her, brushing her hair gently. "Enemy, don't let this world make you small," Mama Nkechi whispered. "Your light will shine." But light in a house full of thick walls and heavier expectations was hard to see. When Adaora turned 18, something happened that changed her path forever. Her uncle, Barrister Paul Obi, a distant relative and a respected lawyer in Abuja, came to visit. Over dinner, he noticed how Adaora handled conversations, how articulate she was. "She should be in university," he told Chief Damian. "Ada, she's just a girl," Chief Damian scoffed. But Uncle Paul was persistent. "Let me sponsor her. I'll take responsibility." After days of arguing, Chief Damian reluctantly agreed. On one condition: she would study law and return immediately after graduation to help with his businesses. It was her first taste of freedom. At the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Adaora thrived. She topped her class, argued fiercely in moot courts, and developed a heart for justice, especially for women in rural communities who suffered in silence. When she graduated, her father wrote only one sentence in his congratulatory letter: "Return home immediately. Your brothers need assistance." Back in Umadim, Adaora was not welcomed with open arms. Her brothers had taken over operations. Chikwudi was managing the palm oil business, Ibuka oversaw construction contracts, and Nonso controlled logistics. They barely acknowledged her presence. Chief Damian, now aging and more traditional than ever, gave her tasks like managing receipts, attending village women's meetings, and helping with cooking events. Her degree was invisible in his eyes. "You should marry Barrister Naji's son," he said one morning. "He's a senator's nephew. Good family." "I didn't come home for marriage," she replied quietly. He stared at her coldly. "Then you've wasted all your education." Even Mama Nkechi dared not speak. She watched her daughter fade into bitterness and pain, unable to shield her from the storm. Then Chief Damian fell ill. On a warm August evening, after a quiet meal of oha soup and fufu, Chief Damian closed his eyes and never opened them again. Adaora sat beside him for hours, weeping, praying, whispering apologies and goodbyes. She still loved him despite everything. 3 days later, the will was read. The compound was packed with villagers, elders, family members, and a few nosy neighbors. The lawyer, a stout man named Barrister Egu, stood with a stern face and read aloud. To my first son, Chief Damian Obi, I leave the Nui lands and all oil mill operations. To my second son, Chief Damian Obi, I leave the construction company, vehicles and warehouses. To my third son, Nonso Damian Obi, I leave the poultry farms, trucks and Abakaliki properties. To my daughter Adaora. He paused. Nothing. She has been educated and prepared for a different path. The crowd murmured. Adaora didn't hear the rest. Her ears rang. Her eyes blurred. Her world shattered. Mama Nkechi fell to her knees, weeping. Damian, why? She sobbed. Days turned into nights of silence. Adaora locked herself in her room, eating little, speaking to no one. Betrayal sat heavy on her chest. She had given everything to this family. Her life, her dreams, her youth. Now nothing. But grief eventually turned into something else. Resolve. She left for Enugu and met her former professor, now a senior advocate of Nigeria, and filed a suit. Obi Adaora versus Obi Chikwudi and Ors. The grounds: gender-based discrimination and unlawful disinheritance under the Nigerian constitution and customary law. Her brothers laughed when they were served papers. She's lost her mind, Nonso told a reporter. She wants to destroy our father's legacy, Chikwudi said. The entire village was divided. Some praised her courage. Others called her ungrateful. Even the elders condemned her. But Adaora walked into that courtroom with her head high and her mother by her side. The legal battle stretched for months. Expert witnesses were called. Customary lawyers argued that tradition must be respected. Adaora's team countered with the Constitution, court precedents, and the African Charter on Human Rights. She was excluded because of her gender, her lawyer said in closing. That is not culture, it is injustice. Adaora spoke too, her voice firm and trembling with emotion. I loved my father. I respected our traditions. But traditions that crush daughters and elevate sons are not sacred. They are shackles. After 6 long months, the judgment was delivered. The court ruled that Adaora was entitled to an equal share of her father's estate, citing discrimination and upholding constitutional law over biased tradition. The courtroom erupted. Some applauded. Some hissed. Her brothers stormed out in disbelief. But Adaora stood still, tears pouring silently. She had won, not just for herself, but for every girl silenced in the name of culture. Adaora didn't claim lands and lock them away. She called her brothers to a meeting and offered compromise. I don't want to fight you, she said. Let us split it fairly. Not to destroy our father's name, but to rebuild it with truth. They refused. So she built the Ada Obi Justice Center, a legal aid organization for women, widows, and children. She opened free schools for girls and organized weekly community sessions to educate families about inheritance rights. Her mother, now freer, became a village counselor and mentor to young brides. The same villagers who once mocked her now brought her gifts and blessings. One Harmattan morning, a car pulled into her compound. Chikwudi stepped out, his face weary, his eyes wet. Our children are asking questions, he said. About why you left. About why we fight. Adaora sat him down under the mango tree. I never left, she said. I was always here. You just refused to see me. He nodded. I'm sorry. Days later Ibuka and Nonso came too. Took time but healing began. Years passed. Adaora married. Not to power but to love. A schoolteacher who respected her mind. They raised 2 daughters and a son in truth and compassion. When she spoke at the United Nations conference in Abuja, she began her speech with, "My name is Adaora Damian Obi, the daughter they left behind. But I rose, not in revenge, but in justice. And in justice I found peace." The audience rose in applause. In Umadim, girls were named Adaora for generations. Her story echoed not just in law books, but in hearts. And the daughter who was once given nothing became the woman who gave everything. Then,